Hello there, Rabbi. How are you and your feline friend doing?
Skippy and I were just waiting for you to come on.
Well, a funny thing happened on the way to the podcast this morning. Well, it wasn't that funny. At least it wasn't funny to me when it happened. But I suppose that's the truth behind all humor. When something bad happens, we tend to turn it into a funny story later. Isn't that true?
One of the ways to cope with different situations is with humor. Humor is a very effective tool for dealing with sadness, tragedy, when they happen to us. I'm not sure that when bad things happen to other people, it's funny. That's why I've mentioned before, world's funniest videos I turn off. It's not funny. It's all about people being hurt, breaking something, doing something. And watching it happen to someone else, I don't find cathartic and I don't find it humorous. And I think it's kind of odd that it's on television. Now, to the individual, humor is a way to deal with a difficult situation. But most of the things on World's Funniest Home Videos are staged, they're made up. So it's not cathartic and it's not people dealing with tragedy or dealing with illness or dealing with death. And we even call it dark humor. You don't want to hear a lot of jokes in hospitals, in hospice. And when I was a co-facilitator of a cancer support group, we had lots of good sessions laughing, and we all agreed we could never tell anyone outside the group because they would think there's something wrong with us or that we were sick. It was our way of coping with a very difficult situation. So humor does have a good place. It has several places.
Well, the legal department just texted me to remind everyone that the opinions of the rabbi versus current television shows now or in the past is not necessarily the views of the management and are only expressed by the rabbi. But television and movies often make fun of painful situations, from vaudeville days of slapstick humor and pie in the face to All in the Family and movies that characterize different tragic subjects that are situations that where everybody laughs. Jackie Gleason was famous for being a tragic character that everything bad happened to and everybody laughed.
Now, a lot of the humor you're talking about, we can identify with because they take place in our lives. But when I watch some videos on YouTube or television, I can't identify with building a roller coaster in my backyard and getting a brain concussion. I can't identify what made Gleason and Slapstick and the Keystone Cops funny was we saw what they were doing when we looked out the window. It wasn't unique. It was staged. However, we'd seen it before and it happened to us. And I think that makes a difference too, Joe. I think humor that is effective is when I can identify and say, yeah, I remember doing that. Or, my God, that's me. Or, that almost happened to me. Wow, I get to see it and now I can laugh at it.
Well, the question that always comes to my mind is who's laughing at it? Are they laughing with you or at you when you tell that joke? And things that I think people have no trouble understanding, that stuff that was funny in the movies and television 50, 60 years ago, 70, 80 years ago, 90 years ago, I'm old, um, and is not funny today or even considered appropriate. Like you can't make fun of old people getting hurt as like you used to in the old days. Um, Characterizations of different ethnic groups, whether they are Black, Jewish, Arab, any any other group that you can think of. It's not what is done today because we've evolved, but still to a certain extent, there is that occasional character on TV or television that's not immediately identified as someone from another section of society. But I think of the Big Bang Theory
Mhm.
and the character who comes from India and everybody laughs at because all his gaffes are as a foreign national. What is funny, and it is funny objectively when you don't take into account the perspective, but there's a certain tragedy to that too.
Yeah, I think we're walking a tightrope where there's a fine line. I've watched some older movies and TV shows that I remember liking, and I stopped watching because I felt uncomfortable and embarrassed, realizing that the source of humor was mockery or making fun. It wasn't laughing together. And that may be which side we want to come on, Joe. If we're laughing with the character, with inappropriate use of the language or not identifying with the culture, then we can all laugh with and it becomes funny. But when it's a source to mock someone, to put someone down, then that's where I think the line lies. And that's where it's not funny anymore because we use it to mock people, to give us a reason to discriminate against them. Look how stupid they are. They don't fit in. And we make it a generalization about their skin color, their religion, or their nationality, rather than some of the humor, which is the result of not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, not knowing what's appropriate or acceptable. And that's why you need to study before you go to a foreign country or you go to services with another religion. How do you be a perfect stranger in a different country or in a different synagogue or church? If you know the customs, then you'll act appropriately. Because if not, you're mocking, making fun. It becomes very different from being able to laugh with someone or with yourself. When you look at making a fool of yourself, oh boy, I really made a fool of myself. That was very funny.
And it is a fine line because look at Blazing Saddles and Mel Brooks. And he managed to skewer all sorts of stereotypes, including how Native Americans were the lost tribe of Israel. Um,
Well, Mel Brooks and Norman Lear, their theory was if we put on the screen, if we made visual the most ridiculous statements about different groups, different religions, different people, we'll laugh, we'll see that, and we won't do it anymore. We won't use it as ammunition. We won't think that Native Americans are, however they were portrayed. We won't think that because once we see it on the screen, once we laugh at it, we'll realize, hey, we're making a joke out of something, and that's not what they're really like. Unfortunately, many people watch movies, TV, watch these stereotypic behaviors, and then it just reinforces their belief that Jews are this way, blacks are this way, Native Americans are this way, rather than watching it and going, yeah, they're not really like that. That's funny on the screen. And when I see it, I realize it's not realistic. It's not true. So that's the danger, Joe, of what Norman Lear did, Mel Brooks, and some of the comedians we watch today, that they hold us up and we get to watch these behaviors. And rather than realizing they're funny and just not true, we go, yeah, they're funny and they're true. Look at those people. Therein is the danger.
well, one thing there's no danger of in my life, Rabbi, it's that speaking to you, I am going to hear anything but buckets of wisdom and humor. Thank you so much.